Welcome back, I'm Aspiringspike. We are here today with the video that was teased yesterday. This is Mono Black Karn. This is something that's been just kind of rolling around in my head for a long time, and I finally put it together last week, and this deck is actually pretty good. As you guys know, I've been working on various Devotion shells in Pioneer. I've played a lot of the Mono Blue Devotion deck with Leyline of Anticipation. I've played a decent amount of Mono Red with Leyline of Combustion. And I've just been thinking about Mono Black and what the payoffs and the incentives to be Mono Black are. You know, one of the big ones is you get to play Thoughtseize and Fatal Push, which are some of the best cards in Pioneer. Black decks that can cast these cards just have access to the best interaction. And Grey Merchant is, very clearly one of the best Devotion cards ever printed. This card was incredibly powerful in Standard, just a great Devotion payoff. And thinking more and more about it, you guys have seen other Black Devotion shells in Pioneer, and they haven't been very good. But I think with Bolas' Citadel, I think that this card gives you a real reason to be Black Devotion in Pioneer. This card generating a ton of Devotion, a ton of card advantage. This card's very powerful, and I think it slots very well into this shell. The problem with Bolas' Citadel is Bolas' Citadel has six converted mana cost. So when you play 4 of them, or more than one, your converted mana cost for when you're going off and you're paying life to cast spells is really high. And so if you ever see a second Citadel on your Citadel, it's usually a huge, huge pain. But by playing Karn the Great Creator to tutor up a Bolas' Citadel out of the sideboard, then your average CMC of your deck goes way, way down. Karn can also get mana to help you cast this card. Really, really, really powerful. And when your curve is lower, Grey Merchant is a 5-drop, but it's also a 5-drop that will drain your opponent and gain you more life. You can cast a ton of cards when you get a Citadel into play. And that's the idea of the deck, and it's been pretty powerful so far. I think that you might ask, why are we playing a Citadel in the main deck and a Citadel in the sideboard? I like the 1-1 split. The main idea is, if you ever draw your main deck Citadel, there are no other main deck Citadels, and you just kind of get to go off. And then we also have one to get in the sideboard. So that's how we started to build the deck, and let's go ahead and get into the other card choices, the other pieces of the sideboard, which I think is the most interesting thing whenever you play a Karn deck. And one more reason not to include the Leylines: we're already playing 2 Tymaret, 1 Cling to Dust, and 4 Karn in the main deck, so we already have 7 main deck pieces of Graveyard Hate. And so I did find that a lot of times the Leylines were kind of redundant. But let's talk about the sideboard first, because again, I think that's the most interesting thing about a Karn deck. We're playing both Noxious Gearhulk and Skysovereign Consul Flagship. When I was streaming this over on twitch.tv/aspiringspike, I was just playing a Gearhulk. The idea being, when you don't have the life to go off with Citadel, you can get a Gearhulk and try to stabilize. But after playing Skysovereign in the mono green deck, this card is so good against spirits. I think I'd like to have access to both. And I could actually see a lot of times tutoring up a Skysovereign, killing something, and then tutoring up a Noxious Gearhulk and just taking over the board. Already talked about Bolas' Citadel, just kind of the main reason to be even playing this archetype. Wishclaw Talisman is really good when you're going off with Darksteel Citadel. You can Karn, get Talisman, and tutor up a Grey Merchant, and then keep going. Keep in mind, when you Wishclaw Talisman with Karn, Wishclaw Talisman is an artifact, so they can't activate the Wishclaw Talisman after it goes under their control. And you don't have to get a Grey Merchant. Obviously, you can get any card in your deck with this. Sometimes Thoughtseize when your opponent casts Inverter and they're trying to go off. Very versatile card. Darksteel Citadel, when you need to hit a land drop, it's going to come up more often than you might think. Walking Ballista, just for a little bit of value. Sometimes this closes out a game. Sometimes it just controls the board. Very good in a Nykthos deck. 1 Nyx Lotus. This card does not get tutored up that often, but when it does, it's been very, very good for me, generating a ton of mana. Damping Sphere for the Lotus Breach matchup, Tormod's Crypt for Lotus Breach, Swedish Sultai, and Inverter, and Pithing Needle for various Planeswalkers. we're playing 3 Davriel and 2 Agonizing Remorse. I'm glad now that we've cut the ley lines, we found room for the 3rd Davriel. Davriel has really been strong against Inverter, Blue-White Control, and Lotus Breach. I've been very impressed by this card. And 2 Agonizing Remorse. I think Agonizing Remorse is more important than Duress right now because this card can hit Inverter, Thoughtseize Oracle, Fae of Wishes, and Duress can't. So again, that's the sideboard. Let's go into the main deck. The mana base is actually kind of weird. We're playing 4 Castle Locthwain, and this card is phenomenal in the deck, and it is coming into play way more often than not. The weird thing is for Fabled Passage, you might think it's strange to play 4 Fabled Passage in your monocolored deck, and it absolutely is. But the reason we're doing it is threefold. We're playing 4 Fatal Push, so being able to turn on Revolt for that is very important. We're playing Bolas' Citadel. This is kind of the big reason. Being able to shuffle when you see a land on top with your Citadel is super duper important. And one nice thing is if you have an Urborg in play, your Fabled Passage will your passages will tap for black. So not only will they tap for black on the first 3 turns of the game, but they'll also just tap for black until you have a Citadel out, and then you can just leave them uncracked, and then you can shuffle later for Revolt or Bolas' Citadel. And then the third reason is pretty small. We're playing 1 Cling to Dust and Fabled Passage can help fuel the escape on this card. We're playing 3 Nykthos. I like 3 rather than 4 in this deck because we're just a little less in on the make a ton of mana with Nykthos plan. Playing 2 Urborgs, and then how many swamps is this? We're playing 25 lands, just kind of the rest of this is swamps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 swamps. 4 Fatal Push, 4 Thoughtseize. Just basically every black deck is playing 4 Fatal Push, 4 Thoughtseize. Black has the best early interaction, and it's not close. I'm playing 1 Cling to Dust also, and this is a card I've been very impressed by in other black decks that aren't really using their graveyard a lot. This card is a little unassuming, but I think this is a card that is going to see a lot of play in Eternal formats as time goes on. It cycles for 1 mana, or can gain you 3 life for 1 mana. It's incidental graveyard hate, and you can also escape it for 4 mana to generate card advantage, generate life gain. And it's just 1 mana, and it cycles for a mana, and just will draw you cards in the later game when Graveyard Hate isn't relevant, and when it is relevant, it's super duper powerful. 4 Gifted Aetherborn, 3 Yarok's Fenlurkers, and 2 Tymaret for Devotion Enablers. I think Yarok's Fenlurker is the best of these 3 cards. You know, being 2 mana, exiling a card from their hand, and then being able to be pumped with Nykthos has been very strong. Gifted Aetherborn is also very good in the creature matchups, and I was a little hesitant to think that Tymaret was going to be good in the shell, but I decided to give it a shot. But the Graveyard Hate is very good. Its activated ability. And one thing that might not be super obvious is the life gain on Tymaret keeps your life total high for when you go off with Citadel. And sometimes you have a Citadel out, you have like a Nykthos, and you're going off, and you just need to gain some life, and you can like Nykthos and eat 6 cards from graveyards with Tim and gain some life. And I think this card has certainly earned its spot. In the 3-drop spot, we're playing 3 Liliana the Last Hope and 4 Murderous Rider. Liliana is really strong with Yarok's Fenlurker, Grey Merchant, Murderous Rider, being able to recur those. But one other nice thing it does is when you're going off with Citadel, if you are stuck and you see a land on top, you can -2 Liliana to try to keep going. Another nice thing about Liliana is she makes 2 Black Devotion. And another kind of weird play pattern that's come up a bunch against the combo decks is I'll have a Liliana out, I'll play a Yarok's Fenlurker, and then I'll kill my own Yarok's Fenlurker with Liliana so I can just play it next turn and get another card from their hand. Already talked about Karn. Murderous Rider is one of, if not the best, 3 mana removal spell in Pioneer, and it's extra good in this deck because it makes 2 Devotion. Already talked about Grey Merchant, so I guess that's the deck. If you like content like this, you can subscribe or find me over on twitch.tv/Aspiringspike. I stream Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into a league. Okay, so we are on the draw for round number 1. I like this hand. Okay, well enough. I think this hand is a keep. Our opponent's mulligan to 6, and the Yarok's Fenlurker is going to get even better when our opponent has mulligan to 6. If we draw a land, we're probably not playing this Fabled Passage on turn 1 unless it is a Fabled Passage. Playing against mono black aggro, interesting. There's a Fatal Push. I will probably take the hit off the Dread Wanderer to see if our opponent plays a Scrap Heap Scrounger on turn 2, and we can Fatal Push that instead of the Dread Wanderer and block Wanderer with Fenlurker. That's exactly what happened. Awesome, awesome. Now, these threats are going to be recursive. It's possible that we get to exile some of these cards with Karn the Great Creator, getting Tormod's Crypt. Depending on, if they're using their mana for other stuff. But for the most part, we're just trying to buy time until we can go off with Citadel and keep our life total high. Grey Merchant being just a 5-mana 2/4 that can't be Fatal Pushed is a super big deal. I will again block this this Wanderer. Would love to draw something to do this turn. Swift in, Murderous Rider, Gifted Aetherborn, something. Fatal Push is something for sure. I will play the Urborg here, even though it does turn my opponent's Mutavault into a black source. I don't think that's going to be super duper relevant. I think it's going to be somewhat relevant. Here I'm going to sort of hope that my opponent activates their Knight. They're not going to, so I'm just going to Fatal Push now and keep our life total at 16 instead of 15. And they play a Scrap Heap Scrounger from their hand, so now we can get a Tormod's Crypt if we want to. I think we do want to, even though it means our Karn is dying. Karn is also just going to tank a hit here. If we draw a land, we can go Liliana minus, get Yarok's Fenlurker, and exiling the Scrounger and the Wanderer seems worth my time. Oh no, Thoughtseize. Actually, I guess it's not clear what our opponent's going to take. They might just try to reduce our life total enough that Bolas' Citadel is not incredibly impactful. The problem with not taking Citadel is if they take Liliana, we can get back Grey Merchant with the -2. If they take Grey Merchant, or so if they take Liliana, we can just cast Grey Merchant, which is going to be a great blocker. I mean, that's going to be true of Grey Merchant kind of no matter what here. It's a hard choice for them. We still have 3 more Karns to find a Citadel in the future, and I think our average top deck is just better than our opponent's average top deck. Our creatures are just bigger than theirs. They take the Grey Merchant. We'll see how that works out for them. They're not activating Mutavault, so we can infer that they have something else to do with their 1 mana, unless they just forgot. We could actually just get back Yarok's Fenlurker here and get the last card out of their hand. I think I like that, just because we get to use our mana this turn. Can potentially block. Liliana's gonna, make them probably attack Liliana. Their last hand was Swift End. Their last card in hand, sorry, was Swift End, so they just forgot to attack with the Mutavault. And so now we could keep Liliana alive if they only send 1 creature at the Liliana. If they send Mutavault and Scrap Heap, we don't have to chump block and we still get to keep our creature around. And then if we draw a land, we get to play Citadel. If we miss, then we can cast any other spell we draw, because this is the only 6-drop in the main deck. We can block any creature with Intimidate because our deck is all black creatures, so Murderous Rider, I imagine, is getting sideboarded out. But we made it to land number 6, and here's Bolas' Citadel. Let's hope that it's kind to us. I think I'd rather just get the Lifelinker in play rather than cast Swift End. And then there's a land on top, so we're gonna stop here. But Nykthos can generate a ton of mana, but we're probably just gonna like play whatever land we find off of the top with Citadel next turn. As soon as we find a Liliana to either get back Grey Merchant or an actual Grey Merchant, we're gonna be in great shape. So we go back up to 15. And they just have a land for the turn in Mutavault. Alright, we'll get a Nykthos anyways. Shuffle with Fabled Passage. Get a Swamp. Gifted Aetherborn. Yarok's Fenlurker. And we could draw a card here, but I think I'd rather just attack with the Fenlurker and pump a bunch. I'd like to leave one Fenlurker activation on defense, so we'll just tap Nykthos here and pump it 3 times. Opponent is still playing this out. No attacks. Well, there's a Grey Merchant. I don't think that kills my opponent here, but it's going to put us back up to 17. This should... No, this doesn't quite end it because they can double chump the Fenlurkers, I guess. But now we can... Fatal Push the Mutavault. So let me go ahead and get these up to, or just the one Mutavault. We can just go ahead and get these up to 3 power each. I'm going to activate the first Nykthos first, and then attack with both. I guess we didn't need to do it like this, but our opponents just had enough anyways. Okay, so that was game 1 against Mono Black Aggro. There are, against most creature matchups, we actually just don't sideboard. I would really like to find room for some more creature removal in the sideboard, some Ritual of Soots, some Witch's Vengeances, something like that. But there just, I don't think, is room in the sideboard with all the Karn tutor targets. So no sideboard. Let's go ahead and go to game 2. On the draw for game 2, we have a pretty good hand. Like, Thoughtseize into Fenlurker is going to shred our opponent's hand to bits. It is possible that they're able to beat this with a bunch of aggression. Fatal Push for that Knight was a huge draw there. Although they have double Thoughtseize to take the Fatal Push. We have a couple of options here. I think that the Yarok's Fenlurkers are going to make it to where our opponent's just not going to be able to cast the Rankle. So we can either take a Thoughtseize, or we could take a Scrap Heap Scrounger and just like exile it with Cling to Dust. Actually, I think I like taking the Thoughtseize. It might seem a little weird, but what I like about taking Thoughtseize is I think this is going to incentivize our opponent to just cast Scrap Heap Scrounger next turn, and then we can make sure that we can Fatal Push the Knight. We can also, like, next turn, now we can, like, Fatal Push Knight and cycle Cling to Dust on Thoughtseize or something. I'll also, like, see if my opponent draws a land and if they want to pump. So we take 3 down to 14. Not a very high life total, I guess. Ooh, second Scrap Heap is scary. So their hand is Thoughtseize, Rankle, Mystery card. Okay, that's going to be good at blocking Scrap Heaps next turn. But for this turn, I think we just play a Fenlurker, and next turn play Fenlurker, Tim. So we know, again, we know Thoughtseize, Rankle, Mystery card. They exiled the Rankle. Oh, you know what? This was a mistake to not play the Tim, because now they can just Thoughtseize it. Yeah. My bad. I mean, they might not respect it, but I think they'll figure it out. Oh, they didn't. Oh, wow. I mean, maybe that means they have Fatal Push as one of their other cards. We are going to get to gain some life off the Tim, even if that's the case. Yeah, I guess I'm chump blocking with Fenlurker. No, actually, maybe I'm not chump blocking with Fenlurker if my opponent kills Tim and attacks, but because I think I'd rather have Fenlurker back to chump block and protect Karn's life total. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm not too surprised to see Tim dying here. So we can either just gain 2, or we can Fatal Push a Scrap Heap, which is going to gain us 3, so I think that's just going to be better. And then we'll take 3 off of the Fenlurker. Our opponent does have a creature in the graveyard to recur the Scrap Heap. This is probably going to be a Noxious Gearhulk game. We don't know the card in our opponent's hand. Interesting. I think I'd like to Karn for a Citadel here. Play Citadel. If we draw a land, we can get Gearhulk into play. If we miss, we can play Skysovereign. We can also like Needle, Scrap Heap, Scrounger if they play something else here and kill the Scrap Heap potentially. Ooh, Spawn of Mayhem. So hopefully we need to like draw a land. Yeah, we need to draw a land so we can Gearhulk, but we missed. So obviously like this turn needs to start with Swift Ending Spawn, but then it's like I don't think that we can survive the Mutavault or the Scrap Heap attack. We can get Pithing Needle for Mutavault, but we're just going to be at 3 and we can't stop this with anything. I guess we can get Walking Ballista and go to 1. And the last time I checked, 1 is not 0. Definitely in bad shape. I mean, being able to cast Murderous Rider next turn is going to be very good at blocking Mutavaults. If we draw a land, we can like shrink a Scrap Heap, play Murderous Rider. We also need them to brick kind of hard too. Sadly, I believe that our opponent can still activate their Scrap Heap, even though it is an artifact and this is an activated ability. They just don't control an artifact currently because this is not in play, or this is not an artifact that they currently control. I should say. So they get the Agonizing Remorse, our Liliana. So we're gonna need a top deck. They also didn't attack with the Mutavault, which means that they are planning on recurring Scrap Heap instead. That is a top deck. So we can actually... What we should do here, maybe instead of playing Murderous Rider, is use Cling to Dust on the Scrap Heap in response to the activated ability, and then Fatal Push either the Mutavault or the Scrap Heap, probably the Scrap Heap. This is also going to gain us 3 life. We want to leave creatures in our graveyard for Liliana, so let me exile Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, one of the Fenlurkers, and I guess the second Fenlurker. Go up to 6, we deal with the Scrap Heap. We're kind of doing it. And like, I don't think it's super likely our opponent attacks Karn instead of us. I mean, I guess they know they don't have a lethal attack here, so they might try to go after Karn and get it off the board so it can't tutor up a Gearhulk or something. They decide to draw a card, so we should be able to keep Karn alive now. And so I imagine we're going to Fatal Push the Scrounger no matter what happens here. They attack us, yeah, we'll Fatal Push it. They do still have a creature in their graveyard. Okay, so I think we're just going to get a Gearhulk. Yeah, that seems like the best call to me. Noxious Gearhulk, play a Swamp. Gain 1 life. But this is also going to block really well. We have a Murderous Rider to play to keep like these guys on defense, and if our opponent is going to be activating Castle Locthwain, I think we can actually go on the defensive. Or the offensive, rather. Our opponent is top decked to Swift in, and they killed our Gearhulk, and now they can get back Scrap Heap. They decide to attack with Mutavault rather than get back Scrap Heap. I think they should have just like main phased, gotten this back to play around Cling to Dust. If we draw a land, we can Murderous Rider and hold up Cling to Dust. We didn't draw a land, but this is probably better. We could even maybe just play. No, I think we want to hold, just because I would like to Swift in their Murderous Rider, and then next turn we can play this. We have a decent amount of life gain here with Double Rider and another Cling to Dust here. Need our opponent to. We probably need our opponent to brick this turn. It would be bad if they drew a discard spell. Scrap Heap is interesting. I think they're going to play the Murderous Rider too. They return Scrap Heap at sorcery speed, which makes a lot of sense. So let's go ahead and use our Murderous Rider. Land lets us cling, and Rider. Spell lets us cast the spell. It's a land, so let's go ahead and cling the Scrap Heap. We could cling the Bloodsoaked Champion instead, and then they can't get back either creature. That's probably a little bit better this turn. Down to just to Cling to Dust in our yard, though, but... Wait, what? Oh no! Oh no, I misclicked. I undid the thing and I accidentally targeted my own Tymaret, and then I also didn't get to gain the life because I exiled it in response. So I misclicked on the Cling to Dust. That stinks. Oh man. We'll see if we can still squeak this one out, but that put us at a really big disadvantage. Now they get to get back their Bloodsoaked Champion. And we would be at 5 otherwise, too. Just another day in Magic Online, misclicking. So we attack, we go up to 4, we play Swift In down to 2, play another Rider, we block, Mutavault, Bloodsoaked Champion, gain 4, and stay at 1 after we take 3 from the Scrap Heap. Man, I made like a pretty bad misclick yesterday on the recording, and today. Stinks. I mean, if we top deck a Grey Merchant, we're probably going to win, assuming our opponent can't kill one of our Riders. Well, let's double block the scrap heap. This is a pretty good attack, I think, by them. If they have a fatal push, they can now kill one of the riders. They have a Spawn of Mayhem. That's bad. I think we're dead. I guess we're not dead on board. But we're going to take 1 to the spawn. They're going to attack us down to 1. And then I'm not even sure what out we would have at that point. I guess it would have to be Grey Merchant into Grey Merchant or something crazy like that. We still have game 3 to play as well. No attacks? That's insane. That's just got to be a misclick. I don't know what that's about. I'm going to cast this, I suppose. Oh no, we're at 5? Oh man, so if we had gained the life off the Cling to Dust, we could just cast this Grey Merchant. And we like win this game probably, but we can't. So we pass here, they get back Scrap Heap. And I think we're dead to that Alpha Strike. We block, take... Yeah, we're dead. That stinks. Alright, guess we're going to game 3. You know, playing Magic Online, and, you know, especially if you're going to be talking and doing commentary, you're going to misclick, and the more you play, the less it's going to happen, but when it does happen, it does stink. This is a pretty good hand we have for game 3. Gifted Aetherborn on the plays is pretty strong. We can cycle Cling to Dust on Fabled Passage if we miss our land drop on turn 3. I'm going to wait to crack the passage and see if our opponent plays an Urborg on turn 1, and then we just don't have to crack it. They didn't play a 1-drop, which makes me fear a Fatal Push. We could consider playing Fenlurker this turn. Yeah, I think I am going to play the Fenlurker. They might just want to cast their Fatal Push and use it on the Fenlurker, and then we get to play an Aetherborn. They don't even necessarily have one. They exiled a Drag to the Underworld. They play a Scrap Heap. KKK. I'm going to Cling to Dust my own Fabled Passage. Nice to rattle off a couple of lands there. Swift in the Aetherborn. Now they can get in with Scrap Heap. We're not going to block, so that way we can protect our Karn's loyalty next turn, or just keep in Devotion for Grey Merchant. Fatal Push is interesting. I'm going to play the Karn, and might actually just get a Darksteel Citadel here. Yeah, we really just need to hit this land drop. Yeah, we get the Citadel a lot, it turns out. They're ignoring Karn? No, that can't be right. Yeah, they're going to attack Karn. Let's just go to chump block. And they swift in the Karn. Okay, I think that's fine for us. I'm going to hold the Fabled Passage just in case we can find a Bolas Citadel. Also Revolt for Fatal Push on like a Rankle. And Grey Merchant blocks super well in this matchup, so I think right now our plan is to play Grey Merchant into Grey Merchant, maybe do some light attacking, but use this Castle Locthwain to grind our opponent out. Yeah, just a 5-mana creature that can't be fatal pushed, blocks all of their creatures. Grey Merchant is great in this matchup. I'm going to play the second Merchant instead of the Karn here. This is going to turn Nykthos into a land that generates extra mana, and we can also hold up push. This is going to block really well. Like with our opponent missing their land drop last turn, but still having a bunch of cards in their hand, it would make sense for them to have a Rankle. So I would like to just hold the fatal push for Rankle win / if they cast it. Which is not this turn. It's a Spawn of Mayhem instead, but I guess that's good enough to push. Can maybe start attacking. They're at 10. Fenlurker is free to play because of Nykthos. So let's make 6 black. We have 3 floating. Have a bunch of options with Karn. I think I like getting Wishclaw Talisman, and so I like putting Talisman into play so our opponent cannot disrupt this with a Thoughtseize or an Agonizing Remorse. And then we can also just attack them down to 6. And next turn we can tutor up another Grey Merchant with Wishclaw Talisman and probably kill our opponent. They would need 2 removal spells not to die here. That is only 1 removal spell, so they should just die to us tutoring up a Grey Merchant now. And if we had tutored up a Bolas' Citadel or any other artifact that we couldn't have cast last turn, they would have been able to get it out of our hand with Rankle. So I imagine our opponent's going to at least make us sacrifice a creature. I mean, they're also just... I think they might even be dead on board to us sacrificing Grey Merchant. And pumping Fenlurker. Can we pump it 3 times? I don't think we can pump it 3 times. You want to usually activate your Nykthos before you tap your Talisman just to get an extra mana, because this goes away, but doesn't matter a ton here. Awesome. So despite our misclick in game 2, which looks like that one did cost us that game, we managed to keep our cool and win the match. I will see you guys in round number 2. So we've got a decent hand on the play. It is usually good to draw your Bolas' Citadel, because whenever you can eventually get to 6 mana, this wins the game. So if you can just grind until then, you win when you cast your Citadel most of the time. And I do like double Fenlurker. They're pretty good at multiples, just taxing your opponent's hand, gumming up the board, providing devotion if we find Nykthos. Anafenza is interesting here. I think that I'd like to be a little more mana efficient than playing a second Fenlurker. We could have maybe attacked and seen if they wanted to just make us pump the mana into Fenlurker and traded. I'm not sure. I do like this matchup. I think we're favored, and like one of the main reasons why we're favored, in my opinion, is Karn the Great Creator shuts off the Walking Ballista combo because it's a activated ability of an artifact. I think that this is going to be a Nyx Lotus game. Maybe not. So I think my opponent is going to zero their Gideon and attack Karn. So instead of Nyx Lotus, why don't we just go ahead and get Darksteel Citadel again. This is like the 3rd time we've got this league. But let's get Darksteel Citadel, and I don't think it's going to be incredibly obvious, but next turn we can get Skysovereign and kill their Gideon, because they're going to zero the Gideon to attack. Maybe Darksteel Citadel is just better than Nyx Lotus, and we can open up a sideboard spot. Keep in mind that Karn can +1 on the Skysovereign to make it a creature and attack, so we don't need a creature to crew it. Karn is the crew by himself. If we draw a land, we can play a Bolas Citadel. If we don't, we have Swiften plus Fenlurker. Would I rather Thoughtseize or Fenlurker? I think I'd rather Thoughtseize. Yeah, really glad that we Thoughtseize instead of Fenlurker, so we got the Elspeth Conquers Death instead of redundant Heliod. We are super ahead this game. We're at 14, so our life total when we play the Citadel is going to be kind of a thing, or kind of an issue, but should be fine. So now we get to plus on the Skysovereign, casually kill the Anafinza. And we can play a Murderous Rider and Fenlurker away their Heliod. Not that the Heliod is really doing anything in their hand. Baffling End our Rider, I guess? Yeah. So we could get Nyx Lotus to guarantee casting Bolas the Citadel next turn, but I think that it's better to just keep the pressure going. Like hit our opponent from 14 down to 8. I believe we can present lethal next turn by pumping Fenlurker, yeah. We're holding up Fatal Push. We have a Swift in next turn. Don't need to get too cute. We can also get Walking Ballista to deal a little bit of extra damage. Okay, up a game against Mono White Devotion. Mono White versus Mono Black. This is another matchup where we don't sideboard. I guess this is probably a good time to talk about that a little bit. I sideboard in basically the discard spells when the fatal pushes are bad. The pushes are bad against Inverter, Lotus Breach, and blue-white control. And besides that, we're really just not sideboarding that much. I do bring in like Agonizing Remorse against Swedish Sultai and some Davriels sometimes. But against these creature decks, 9 times out of 10, we're just going to say no changes. Okay, I am going to mulligan this hand. This one seems fine. We're going to keep it. I think I'm going to put back the second Thoughtseize. So we go Thoughtseize, Aetherborn, Swift End. Nice little 1, 2, 3 curve. So they have a Knight of the White Orchid, Gideon Ally of Zendikar, and Walking Ballista. Plains Nykthos. Well, Knight is not that good on the play. I think we just take the Gideon. Yeah. They play a Plains and they play the Knight and attack for 1. Gifted Aetherborn is great in creature matchups and really bad against combo decks and control decks. So our opponent could play a Ballista on 1 pre-combat, and that would allow them to attack with the Knight. They decide against doing that. They're just going to crack their clue. We are flooding out just a little bit, but we do have a Castle Locthwain, at least to maybe keep the gas flowing. So they played the Nykthos, now they have a Ballista and 3 mystery cards. Swifting the Ballista does kind of stink because we lose our Rider, but we really want to get this off the field because they're a Ballista combo deck. Well, we have 6 lands and a Bolas' Citadel. I guess now we don't want to activate Castle Locthwain. Although, like, it's possible that we will. I don't think... Like, I mean, maybe if our opponent plays a Heliod, we just have to activate to try to find an answer to the combo. They have another Ballista. Now we can't block. We can attack. I'm gonna draw a card here. We just kind of need something to do next turn. I know we have to take 4 to do this, and we have a Citadel. Alright, there's something to do. We don't take the 2 if they remove both counters, at least. And I'm gonna leave the Aetherborn back on defense. Because attacking gains us 2, but we lose 3 on the backswing. And our life total needs to be just as high as it can be. Atomic is scary. Okay, there's... Grey Merchant is good, so let's go ahead and... Oh, we should have played Fabled Passage. Oh, never mind. We would have had to shuffle. So, Grey Merchant is fine here to, like, to have next turn... We can gain enough life to go off. Okay, we're doing it. Let me go ahead and attack with this Gifted Aetherborn, see if we gain 2. Our opponent can only Ballista for 3, so I think it's safe to cast this one. And then let's not go to 1. We'll just keep the Liliana on top. And next turn we can Grey Merchant for a ton. We can Aetherborn, gain a ton of life. And I hope that this game illustrates like just the payoff for being Mono Black Devotion. Bolas' Citadel is nuts in this deck. Do they have an Elspeth Conquers Death? Is that what they have here? Might be. I think it's a Ballista. But they can only Ballista for 3, even by playing the second Nykthos. We played around this. Yeah, just a Ballista on 3. Not that scary. So definitely don't want to cast this Fatal Push before we Grey Merchant. So let's go ahead and Grey Merchant. We'll see if our opponent kills an Aetherborn in response. They don't. We go up to 15. They go down to 7. Let's kill the Ballista? We could kill the Knight. Just kill the Ballista. Have not played our land yet. And they concede. Awesome. So we are 2-0, beating Mono Black Aggro and Mono White Devotion. I will see you guys for round number 3. We have an incredibly medium hand here on the draw. Our opponent is mulligan to 6, and I think we're going to follow suit. This hand is a lot better. I think we put back the Grey Merchant. Like we have a 2, 3, 4, 5 curve, but we're not guaranteed to hit this, and I think we'll be fine without it. Concealed Courtyard, interesting. Okay, so this is the white-black Auras deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 curve. Alright, so they have All That Glitters, Cartouche of Solidarity, and Shram. I think we need to take this Shram. It is a little awkward that Cartouche is going to give First Strike and have Hateful Eidolon be able to attack through our Gifted Aetherborn, but we just can't let them start to draw cards with Shram. Urborg, I'm a little worried about it fixing their mana, but we're going to play it so our Fabled Passage can be tapped for black. Okay, now we're just going to play Swamp. Might be a Noxious Gearhulk game, we'll see. They drew another All That Glitters. Okay, so I guess we just need to top deck a removal spell. Might be a quick game. We have a couple of turns to do it because we can chump block this turn, and we can actually chump block for a few turns by recurring Aetherborn with Liliana. They're going to gain a ton of life. A ton of life. There's a removal spell, though. Sure, they're going to get to draw 3 cards, but I am just going to cast it on their upkeep, so they can't... I don't think they'll have any instant speed cards anyways, just good sequencing to do it on their upkeep, though. There is that protection spell, Karametra's Blessing. If that was their draw for turn, good for them. And we're at 3, but 3 is not 0, and we have a Planeswalker active. We have another one to play. Another Hateful Eidolon, huh? Well, this card's not very good against Liliana, although they are going to get a zombie out of it. A little bit better against Liliana. Man, 3 out of their 4 cards were spells there. Stinks. Yeah, I don't believe we can beat this now. I suppose we could minus Liliana into Grey Merchant, gain 4 up to 7, and theoretically live. So, sure, we missed. Let's go to game 2. I believe this is going to be another matchup where we don't sideboard, but it's possible we want the Agonizing Remorses on the play. I think the Remorses seem fine. Definitely it seemed fine on the play, just being able to, like, if they keep a hand with a 2-mana threat, and we just get to Remorse it, we're going to be in good shape. Can cut the Cling to Dust and one of the Tims, maybe? Yeah, that seems good to me. So let's submit like this and go ahead and go to game 2. All right, on the play for game 2, and there's our Agonizing Remorse. I'm going to keep this hand. If we draw spells and those spells are cheap devotion enablers, we'll be able to play a quick Citadel, and if we draw lands, we'll just be able to cast these cards. There's a land, Remorse. Opponent has 2 Shrams and an Ephemia. Double Shram is scary. I'm gonna take the Ephemia, I suppose. They also have Karametra's Blessing. Their hand is great against ours. I guess I'm not sure how we're going to win this game. It's not going to be easy. Oh, boy. They even have Karametra's Blessing to protect the Shram, so they're not going to, like, just play around a removal spell here. I mean, maybe they will. Yeah, they don't. Wisely, I believe they don't. So is our game plan just going to be have the most insane Bolas' Citadel hits ever? That is like a decent game plan, you know, some of the time. Like, Karn can maybe gain some life. Yeah, Karn I think is just going to try to gain some life here. Alright, so we have the 6 land for Citadel, and again, our game plan is going to be like, have Karn tank a hit, have Grey Merchant tank a hit, and then try to go off. What do we even want to get? Like, nothing matters here. Like, they just have Karametra's Blessing, so even tutoring up a removal spell for Shram doesn't do much. I'll grab a Noxious Gearhulk. Could just die here. We're dead if they have Ethereal Armor. Jeez, Lewis. Yeah, that's lethal. Well, good start for them. So we fall to 2-1. See you guys for round number 4. Alright, back for round 4. We've got a pretty fine hand on the draw here. Thoughtseize, Aetherborn, Swift End. Forest Elvish Mystic. I wonder if they're playing our mono green Karn list. Looks like they're not, sadly. I guess we take the elves. That way we can guarantee a hit on the other Thoughtseize. Yeah, it's a little close. Like, we could just, like, hope that they draw a spell, and we get to Thoughtseize that one. But they can cast most spells that they draw. Most of their... Yeah, they could have cast that. So we get to get a little bit of value out of the second Thoughtseize. Not 100% sure that that's correct, but that's what we did. Next turn we get to stabilize with an Aetherborn, can swift in if they draw a fatty, and eventually we're just going to try to work up to the Citadel. Nykthos would be probably our best draw. So their hand is Llanowar Waste Mystery card. Their mystery card is not a collected company. It's probably just like a land. We have not drawn a land yet this game, but that's okay. So they played a forest, and so the last card in hand is Llanowar Wastes. I'm going to attack here. I think it's possible that our opponent triple blocks, so we just like swift into an elf. They decide not to, which is like super reasonable. And I'll just go ahead and Fenlurker their wastes. No, they're just top decking. We can swift into any fatty they draw. They can't draw like a Great Henge and cast it successfully. They decide not to even attack. I'm gonna play, and we drew the Nykthos. I'm gonna play Bolas' Citadel. This is gonna be more devotion for Grey Merchant next turn. Oh, we just hit a Grey Merchant immediately. That's sick. So the next Grey Merchant is lethal, and I guess we attack with Aetherborn too. We're at 21. I don't think we've sideboarded all leagues so far, and no, that's not true. We brought in Agonizing Remorse last game, but we're not sideboarding in this one. I don't think. I don't think discard spells are great against them. Like, I think Thoughtseize is fine, but I don't think we want 2-mana discard spells on the draw against the deck that's trying to play 5/5s on turn 2. If they play a 5/5 on turn 2, and on your turn 2, you just look at their hand, you know what you're doing on turn 3, you're taking 5. So we're on the draw for game 2. This is a really interesting hand. I know it's a 1-land hand, but double Fatal Push against the Stompy deck is super enticing. Double Fenlurker is always, like, usually pretty good, and we can even cycle a Cling to Dust to try to hit a land drop on our first Fatal Push. I'm going to keep this hand. I would not keep this hand on the play, but I think this is a fine hand to keep on the draw. Fatal Push is just... Pushing their elf is so good because they just don't play any 2-drops, so this is always a time walk. Not always, but a lot of times you'll just kill their elf and they won't have anything to do on turn 2. And we immediately drew a land like a champion. We immediately drew 2 lands like a champion. So why don't we go ahead and play Fenlurker then, and then next turn we can just Liliana kill the elf and keep our push around. Like maybe chump block with Fenlurker and push something bigger. They exiled a Vivian Reed from their hand, so that either means they're a little land light or they just have a ton of gas. I guess that both would be true if they're land light. Yeah, it looks like they're land light. And so let's go ahead and kill that elf, and then chump block with the Fenlurker, and then probably play second Fenlurker, chump block again, then push the Yorvo on also cycle Cling to Dust on our Fatal Push next turn. Could also, if they go down to 1 card here, we could like minus Liliana and then double Fenlurker. Doesn't sound unreasonable. We know both of their spells, or their cards in hand are both spells. Second Fatal Push. Yeah, with drawing a second Fatal Push, I think that we just need to allow our Liliana to die. Murderous Rider is good. And then play Fenlurker, chump block, and then double Fatal Push. It's another Vivian. Interesting. So they drew this Overgrown Tomb for turn, and their last card in hand is a Collected Company. So maybe got a little punished for not double Fenlurkering. We do get to double push. The last card in hand is a Coco. We have a Murderous Rider, and then we get to cycle Cling to Dust. I think we're still like pretty ahead here. I don't really want to cast the Thoughtseize. They're just going to Coco in response. Merfolk Branchwalker and Steelleaf Champion. Interesting. Branchwalker reveals a Collected Company. Goodness. Running hot, opponent. Karn is not bad. Them hitting Coco into Coco is bad, though. If we had another land to play Rider and Fenlurker, I would. I think we just need to play Rider. We also need them to have a bad company here, otherwise we're going to be in bad shape. That was not a bad company. I think we're pretty dead. We also ran very hot this game. We kept a one-lander and ripped our first two lands, but... Oh no, did they draw another company? What else could them passing here mean? I think they drew another company. Because why? Because they have a Regisaur in their hand. It's either a company or another 5-drop. It's another. Oh, it's a push. Okay. So we got punished for not playing the Nykthos first too. Okay, let's go to game 3. Another one land hand. I might keep this if I was on the draw, just because we have 2 1-mana interactive spells. And double Aetherborn is very good, but I don't think we can keep this on the play. We've already mulliganed once. This is another double push hand. I think we keep this hand instead of going to 5. And then just drawing any land is going to be phenomenal. Because like double push, double Aetherborn is really, really good in this matchup. We're a 25 land deck. I think this is a fine hand to keep. We did hit a land. It's one of our 3 colorless lands, though. But a land is a land. If they just play an elf here, I guess, yeah, if they just play an elf, we're not supposed to push. Because if we draw a swamp, we can Liliana. And if we don't draw a swamp, we're not doing anything with our turn besides pushing the elf anyways. Yeah. So again, if we didn't draw a land there, we were still just going to push the elf, and it's not like we could have done anything else with our turn. Cool. So again, we did get lucky to rattle off a couple of lands, but I also do think that hand was a keep. And now we're pretty ahead. This is kind of like the last game, though, where we got ahead on board and then our opponent double Coco'd us. So if that happens again, we're going to be in bad shape. Steelleaf Champion is also tough here. Grey Merchant is good. I mean, we can slow down the champ with the Liliana Plus. But this is going to be hard to block. They reveal a Thoughtseize to the Branchwalker. Don't love that. Put Liliana down to 2. Yeah, I suppose we're just going to kill the elf, let Liliana die, play Tim and Aetherborn. And then I'm not going to attack Aetherborn into Branchwalker because I think our opponent's just going to Thoughtseize the Grey Merchant. And then we're going to want to push the Branchwalker and then start attacking or trading off with other fatties. Tim is going to be able to gain a lot of life. We can also, you know, if we draw a Karn, we can get something big and cast it with the Nykthos. I imagine them floating a black mana here means they're casting the Thoughtseize, and they do cast the Thoughtseize. And I also imagine they're going to take Grey Merchant of Asphodel. And Liliana down. So our opponent has 3 spells in hand, but they missed their land drop. I guess now we get to see what they're working with. Double Coco and a Vivien. Yikes. And this game is very similar to the last game. I'm going to take one of the Cocos. And then let's gain 4 life here. So lands are good for our opponent, and most spells are also good for our opponent. So they're not in bad shape at all. But if they can just brick for a turn, if we can, you know, get 2 hits of 6 in, it's going to be pretty good for us. But they immediately hit the land. I mean, not immediately, it's turn 6, right? Alright, so let's Karn, slow things down. I think we get a Pithing Needle for Vivien Reed. Or actually... Steelhead Champion's just going to kill Karn, so let's get Bolas' Citadel. And this is bad if our opponent draws a land for Vivien and kills Tim with Vivien, but I don't think needling Vivien is like the play here. Like, I think getting Citadel and just getting a bunch of gas is going to be better. And also, like, our opponent is not favored to hit a land for Vivien. And even if they do, oh well, they hit the land. They might plus Vivien. They might not realize they can even kill Tim, because this is not, like, killing enchantment creatures with Vivien is not the most common thing in the world. Steely Champion really good against our Aetherborns. Maybe they'll draw like a Great Hinge or something. They also might plus. They might, if they minus, they do kind of expose themselves to us attacking. And you know what? They might just say, I'm gonna not minus my Vivien, and I'm just going to be able to blow up the Bolas' Citadel. And if they have that attitude, maybe they don't attack with Steel Leaf Champion. But now that they found another blocker, they can double chump and then still keep the Vivien -3 for the Citadel. This is an interesting game. So yeah, now they should be able to attack the Steel Leaf at the Karn. They do so. I'm going to play Citadel, even though there's a Vivien here. Grey Merchant. Is this lethal? I don't think it's. It might be 10. It might be 11. I haven't counted. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh my gosh, it was lethal. Wow, that was wild. That was wild. We probably would have lost if they minus the Vivien on the Tim. It's not clear that they saw that line. Okay, we're on the play for match number 5. We have a pretty good 7-card hand. Thoughtseize into Aetherborn into Liliana. Opponent's mulligan to 6, and we are Thoughtseizing them on turn 1. Oh no, we're playing against the black-white Auras deck again, but they've kept a 1-threat hand. We're going to take that 1 threat and see if they can find a new one soon. I don't think this matchup is terrible. You know, we are a 4 Fatal Push, 4 Thoughtseize deck, but it was our only loss this league. Not the same person, was it? No. Put it in the tank. Maybe them thinking here means they drew another 1-mana threat, but they're thinking if they want to like save it to protect it, because it's so bad if it dies to the mono black deck. I kind of think that's what it was. Yeah, they drew. Yeah, that they did draw a 1-drop, and they were debating on whether or not to play it last turn. Wild. Well, now what? They have Ethereal Armor, all that glitters, so I think I'm just going to play Liliana and minus, looking for Murderous Rider. It's going to die even if we plus. We didn't draw a Murderous Rider, but we did draw a Gray Merchant. Interesting. Is triple Gray Merchant going to be enough to race in this matchup? Probably not. They might ignore Liliana if they have like land, all that glitters, and then we could draw Nykthos, and maybe it will be. I think they're going to ignore Liliana and just try to kill us next turn. Jeez. Yeah, they... Oh boy. Well, that was a good draw. Not going to crack the Fabled Passage because we have Nykthos, of course. If we draw a land, we can start Gray Merchanting them, and if we don't, we can play Murderous Rider and get more devotion for Gray Merchants. Yeah, ultimately, I do think it was just going to come down to were we going to draw a land that turn or not. And Nykthos should mean we can play Murderous Rider and Gray Merchant next turn to kill our opponent. I guess just one Gray Merchant kills them, though. Gray Merchant, when you start doing it for 6, 8, that's when the card feels pretty good. When you do it for 2 or 4, the card's not very impactful. Okay, so we got a little bit lucky there to find that Murderous Rider, but we did dig for it pretty aggressively with Liliana, at least. And I do think I want to do the same thing I did last time we played this matchup, just bring in 2 Remorse, just because I don't think the Cling to Dust is very good, and I think these cards are just going to be a little more impactful than like 1 Tim, 1 Cling. Okay, so we are on the draw for match number 5. This league has gone... That first match was pretty long, but the league has gone quickly after that. I think a double Thoughtseize hand is pretty good in this matchup, especially if they keep a 2-mana threat rather than a 1-mana threat. I do like drawing that Castle Locthwain on turn 1. Yep. Oh man, we get to Thoughtseize, Apostle of Purifying Light. This card is probably game over if it ever resolves. I guess we could like theoretically get a colorless creature out of the sideboard with Karn to deal with it. But I am scared of this card. Interesting, they're tanking again. So last game they tanked after we Thoughtseized, and we read that that meant that they had drawn a threat and they weren't sure whether or not to deploy it immediately or not. And that's the read I'm making again. So I think conventional wisdom would dictate to just play Aetherborn, then Thoughtseize Aetherborn next turn, but I'm actually going to Thoughtseize here because of the read I have. And my read was wrong, but I wanted to at least explain my thought process. Very interesting. Immediately drew one after the Thoughtseize. I imagine they're going to play just both Ethereal Armor and Grifspoon here. Tough stuff. Well, next turn we get to play both of our Devotion guys. We can, they're going to hit with their lifelinking guy. We're going to hit with our lifelinking guys. And see what happens. Interesting. Almost like the idea of waiting on the Swift End. I'm not sure. I don't love the idea of giving them 2 cards. It is pretty bad if they just get to top deck Karametra's Blessing, though. It's also not super mana efficient to Swift End. You can just play Tim, Aetherborn. I'll Swift End, but instead of Swift Ending on their upkeep, I think that I'm going to Swift End either in response to an aura or on their end step. Or a response to that. They do get to, draw 2 cards, and they have Griff Spoon in their graveyard to get back, so I guess we can exile Griff Spoon with Tim, theoretically. Uh-oh. That is really bad. Man, they drew 2 spells. Stinks. I mean, they don't have any auras currently. That is the silver lining, I suppose. I do think that we're going to want to exile that Griff Spoon now, so they're out of gas completely. We'll also be holding up Fatal Push. We have a Castle Locthwain. We have, more gas here. Apostle of Purifying Light, though, is... this is a protection from black card against our mono black deck. It'll be a difficult dance. They decide to Griff Spoon the favored Hoplite. I don't want to... Honestly... I mean, they have this to protect it either way, and I think that's just what's going to happen, but I kind of don't want to push it and have them just put it on the Apostle. This can only be done as a sorcery, right? So why don't we let them attack with the Hoplite and then push, and then they'll use their Life's Bounty guy. And then we can exile the Griff Spoon with Tim, because they don't have the mana to return the boon now. And then once we get more 2/3 lifelinkers, we can start just attacking through the Apostle and gaining life. Oh, sorry, if they protection, we don't get to exile the boon. That's right. But Liliana's good. We'll play Liliana plus on the Hoplite. Really wish we could plus on Apostle. And then, play a second Aetherborn. If they draw a pump spell, they get to kill Liliana, but what are you going to do? I guess we attack with both. Just get in for 2 for free. They're going to need to play super tight if we're going to beat Apostle. Might aggressively minus Liliana for a Grey Merchant. I think that would be a fine play. They found a spell. Looks like a pump spell. It's another Griff Spoon, which is probably the worst pump spell. And we'll see if they kill Liliana or if they go after us. I mean, yeah, they're actually just leaving the Apostle back, and now this can block the 2/3 lifelinkers. That's interesting. And now we can Swift in the Hoplite. Yeah, so let me go to just minus Lily, see if we find a Grey Merchant. Could maybe have attacked with everybody and then return something for sure. That would have been a little tighter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to upkeep kill the Hoplite, and then I'm going to kind of hope that my opponent spends their turn activating Griff Spoon. I'm just going to eat their turn by exiling their Oh wait, they have Apostle to exile a creature anyway, so it was not good to attack. Whatever, we'll just Swift in now. No reason to wait till the upkeep because they're hellbent. But we can use Tim to eat the Griff Spoon if they try to spend their turn doing that. And it's activated as a sorcery, so there's really no reason to play around them doing it at instant speed or anything like that. Yeah, so now we get to exile it in response. I do think when you're playing with cards that most people just don't play against around in formats, people will make mistakes until onboard tricks because they're not used to playing against it. I know I do. Opponent said sweet draws. GGG. How much you want to bet our opponent is not going to concede? Or what? Are they actually conceding? Why? They conceded? That was wild. This was a super early concession. They have a... We're just like dead to pump spell. They're at 18. We can't attack. This is one of the earliest concessions I've ever seen. But we 4-1 that league, losing to Black-White Auras, but we also beat it in round number 5. We didn't play against Inverter or Lotus Breach this entire matchup, but I do think both of those matchups are pretty good. I hope that you like this video. I hope you learned something. I've been Aspiringspike. If you want to see more of me, you can subscribe to this channel. You can follow me on Twitter or on twitch.tv/Aspiringspike. But I will see you guys when I see you.